Welcome to Beyond the Hype, where we get to
Hey,
interview incredible marketing executives around the hype around AI. And let's start with Peter Dooher. Welcome, my friend.
aloha, welcome. Great to see you again, Marco. How
Good
you
to see
been?
you. Are you dealing with the cold 60 degrees out in Honolulu?
I know I shouldn't complain, but it broke below 70 today, which I think we all kind of like just woke up. Where's our sweaters? Where's
I'm,
those are like cold weather gear for the morning. But yeah, it's
I,
back up into the 80s now. So beautiful day.
nice. I'm sad for you. I really am. Peter, you are the Senior Vice President of Digital at Servco. Before that, you spent about 12 years at J.Crew leading digital transformation teams. Give us a little bit of insight into how Servco works, the relationship with Toyota and Lexus, and specifically your role overseeing digital transformation.
Yeah, I'd love to. Thanks, Marco. Yeah, it's been a journey to get here in Hawaii and working for Servco. It's a phenomenal company. It's a 106-year history. Really started as a two-car service garage up in the North Shore in Hawaii. Um, the founder really saw an opportunity in mobility back then, and also originally being from Japan, I had the opportunity to go to Japan, and early in the days post-war in the 50s, was able to strike up a relationship with Toyota, and around the end of the 50s, we became one of the prime distributors of the Toyota brand. Around the same time, North America got the distributorship, and we've retained that ever since and expanded since across Hawaii with both as a distributor and retailer for Toyota, Lexus, and Subaru. And we have a large retail operations across Australia, where we're the largest Toyota retail group in the country. It's a really fascinating journey, and a lot of great parallels too between automotive retail and apparel retail from my time at J.Crew, and even before that when I worked at Accenture across the globe in a lot of different industries and small to large startup, et cetera. What I love about Servco is we're kind of like a large startup, 106 years in, and part of our core values are really innovation, teamwork, service, respect, and just driving that customer engagement. And how do we bring brighter solutions to drive friction out of the process and 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 make it fun, right? We want the mobility experience for our consumers to be an enjoyable one, and we're blessed to kind of be a fabric of that in this community as well as across Australia.
Amazing. When you think about a company that's been around for 106 years, still family owned and operated to this day, how do you think about transformation given the legacy around that brand, the company, the history? How do you see your role in trying to lead transformation in 2025 where AI is everywhere and people are trying to
Mhm.
sort out what's real and what's not?
It's great. One of the things that really drew me to Servco is, to be a 106-year-old company, you have to be adaptive and transformative um, all along the way, and not just stick to one road. The founders has a core quote is like, you either grow or you die, and so that's inherently an innovation strategy, right? A growth adaptation strategy. The business has been anywhere up from 50 businesses down to our core two or three now, and with that is kind of an ingrained aspect of always looking a step forward and being strategic in how we want to continue to grow, service our customers. And AI really has become a foundation for that next generation of transformation of Servco, which has probably been through half a dozen of them over the 106 years. And we're just coming through a large strategic effort where we really want to understand that AI is really going to not just change how we work, but it's also the resets the foundation of the operating model, how we go to market for our consumers, and for each other as people. And one of the things we love within the organization and the community is really keep people at the core of it. So how do we really use AI to amplify that relationship aspect of our brand? Just seeing multi generations of customers that we've built over decades and decades, and where can we use this next generation of innovation like AI to further enhance that relationship well into the future.
I mean, you're touching our favorite topic, A and I. So let's get into it. You're responsible for effectively the entire marketing stack at the company. How do you think about frameworks that you use to stay focused on the real things, cut through the noise? And I'd love your perspective both at Servco and as you think about other industries, given the background that you have coming from retail and power as well.
Yeah, I think it's really important to start with the problem space, and having studied physics and really focused on those first principle aspects of um, applying the scientific method and getting to the root of things and focus on the really important problems. Uh, one of the things we find in all industries over my career is it's easy to find a solution to solve a problem of the day. And you see that with a fragmented Martech stack, right, in your experience as well. And that's what we have. I mean, and it's not atypical to any other retail environment I've been a part of. And so with AI, though, what I love is it kind of forces you to take a step back and start with that first principle. What are the problems that are really important? How do we break those down into the meaningful ones? And at that point, where's the value associated with it from an outcome perspective? Because great vendors will talk to you about the features, and they've now got AI, but what are the real outcomes that they're driving from those investments with their customer base, and how do we relate to that with our strategy? And you know, I think AI used inadvertently or not well could just amplify a problem in your data stack or problem in your MarTech stack or any stack. So it's really taking a step back and looking in between the scenes and spending a lot of time talking to providers or internally. If you're going to build, how do these interoperate? How do they integrate? Where's the data foundation going to be one that we can rely on and trust and build quality off of that? Then innovations such as AI can really amplify it in the positive way, whether it's a customer experience journey that we're trying to engage with our MarTech stack, an operational efficiency we're trying to drive on the supply chain side. Whatever the case may be, the same patterns apply. And so I try to take that approach with my team when we look at evaluating, where do we go with our current stack? What do we want to own? What do we want to partner with? Uh, Having a clear strategy from the business side, but also then a clear strategy from the data that's required to inform and execute that business strategy. And then from there, the applications, the integrations, the interoperability start to come into focus a lot more easily with the right partners who share that same ethos, right? And I think we come from a perspective where, the commercial asset of the data is so important going forward. We want to, and this is very much an automotive, it's a very much a third-party solution network where your data is kind of really not in your ownership purvey. And so we're really taking an intentional effort to kind of rewire that, think ourselves more like a vertically integrated brand, we were at J.Crew. We spend a lot of time on that, owning your data, owning your customer, and not just having that dependent on a third party who is not thinking forward, isn't aligned with your strategy, makes it difficult to get at that information and use it in ways and make it interoperable in a vertically integrated business like ours is too.
You started off speaking my love language as a fellow electrical engineer, first principles. I love
Yeah.
that. You also highlighted a pretty important problem that I don't think gets enough attention, which is AI can quickly help you see the problems with your data. And I'm curious, as you think about all the pitches you've seen, what separates vendors from each other when you're evaluating solutions, specifically like the hype versus not? When you're thinking about the application or the business problem you want to go solve, what are you looking for from a vendor that they're bringing to you?
I mean, I really look that they see it as data first strategy as well. And those that we've turned down or those that we really get excited about really understand, the real leverage point of AI is, you know, really mirroring your people and your process through a really foundational data architecture and implementation strategy. From there, the workflow and things like agentic start to get a lot easier. I look in our space, right? If we wanted to really take the best and best of our our service team and embody that in an agent workflow, or our finance and consultants or sales consultants or call center, without the processes in place and the people in place and the workflow to manage how the data is in took, where the best practices can be leveraged and scaled and amplified, and then the data structures really are there to kind of um, mirror that from a technologist lens. You start to get just fragmented AI, right? And the one thing we're very weary of, which I think is a lot we can easily jump into, and I've seen, is we have an agent in service, an agent in sales, an agent in back office. Yet there's three different data sets. There's fragment the 3 points, like almost like Frankenstack together. And if you want to draw a cohesive journey across all of those, it's going to be very difficult, right? So the ones that really stand out for us, who've taken that large investment in unifying their data, and a lot of great vendors are out there. A lot of them are through acquisition, right? And they're still not really well integrated stacks, whether it's on the marketing side or the point of sale side. And so they have those who aren't rethinking from the ground up how their system stack integrate. We find are really just trying to slap the label on top of it, kind of like what I saw in omnichannel back in the early 2010s. And go to you know go to the retail federation conference, and it's everyone's omni. It's and now I'm sure when we go to the automotive conference for the last 2 years, it's always been everyone's now AI enabled, and it's really not it's being it's easy to fall for it, and there are some great point solutions out there without a doubt, but we're thinking of end-to-end customer journey. We're thinking of value chain that goes well beyond the second and third purchase of that vehicle. All of that creates a really important data challenge to solve, and we got to make sure that the partners that we work closely with are thinking of it in the same strategic way, as opposed to a quick outcome for for productivity gains today, but it's still something you can harness and scale in a
Yeah.
future-proof model. Not to say, quick wins are such a big part of it too, and so we are doing a lot of that. Some of those are much more internal, or with really small startups who have that strategic purview, kind of like what we're working on with the Dooher, and some others we're looking at as well. But know that they're building to the same strategic goals that we are, which is great.
It's funny because you talk about companies just slapping AI on top of their solution and bringing it to market. That's one of the benefits of building a company like Adora right now, which is we're AI first in terms of how we operate our workflows, how we build, but we don't have a lot of the legacy
Yep.
stuff to go deal with. So it's almost an advantage to get
It
started
is.
right now,
Like,
and how you go to
yeah,
market
because
and move so
that's
fast.
true. Yeah, and especially in our industry, the big players, some of them are starting to get there, but it's also you have to there's the lowest common denominator, right? You got such a big base of consumers built on legacy stacks, and that they're also, the cost to change for them is something they want it, but they not necessarily have the capital position to afford it, and so you get in this kind of almost catch-22, where then you start cheaper bolt-ons and just continuing the fragmented, I guess, ecosystem of tech that is trying to move the businesses forward. But I think, exactly to your point, those with an AI first approach are really making impact in our industry. And what's exciting is it helps us grow in our adoption curve as well, right? We're working closely with your team. It's helping our team develop the muscle and skills to start to rework our workflows to be more AI first, as opposed to apply traditional workflows with AI, and you're descaling, deleveraging the true opportunity of using AI on top of a traditional workflow.
That brings up a really important point, which is when we started working together, your team had a way of operating. It had a way of getting things done. And to your credit, you've really transformed how the team moves. It's much faster, it's quicker to market. And I'm curious, how do you think about successful implementations, which are partly technology, but partly human? How do you rally the team around something that could be foreign or unclear? And you go from, okay, this is a cool pilot science experiment, to, no, we're going to transform how we now move because we see tremendous business value. Walk us through how you actually get that done from a leadership down to the sort of the IC level.
Yeah, and out of the gate, we're still learning. I'm still learning. It's I think we've had some success, and there's still a high degree of literacy, and that needs to be highly invested in, with humans really at the core of that. And AI is really this engine though, and I think humans, we say it like human, you're still steering. Just like the cars of 50 years ago versus the cars of today, and well, until autonomous starts to steer for us, which it's coming. But AI is really that engine for us going forward, and it's going to help us really drive our business in new ways. And we also look at it as an opportunity in some of the early use cases to find ways to free up human capital for much more value added, interesting work. And as you can imagine, with the size of our business and the legacy of the business, in the past we just have a lot of our problems with process or working across silos and systems and data. with human capital to do all the reconciliation, the manual efforts around it. And what we've shown in some of the use cases is where we can truly unlock that, as provided we invest in the data foundation and then repurpose that team to growth areas of the business, right? If we want to really, like, we really want to lean in on our pre-owned business, or we really want to move from a traditional, brand marketing, maybe retention strategy to really growth marketing and customer-centric, highly personalized strategy. And then it starts to really open up, wow, these are just it's a new way of thinking of how we go to market. It's not just about moving units and gaining market share and retaining market share. Those are all great outcomes and byproducts, but it's really putting the customer to the center of that conversation and starting to look at new KPIs, new metrics, which we're very familiar with from my time in J.Crew, and bringing some of those concepts here has been really exciting. And so you start to, but you still need to free people's time up to actually invest in learning these new skills. And that's where I find the AI Foundation has been helpful in starting to show us where we can free people up from doing the kind of traditional way of it with the new tech, and seeing that the new tech can actually rewrite how you do it in a way that now we can actually go after a market segment that we really didn't have the capacity to put our human capital against before.
It's amazing. You're touching my favorite topic of AI, which is human in the loop, right? It's not replacing, it's changing how we operate, which, to your point, frees the team up to be more strategic or invest in unloved initiatives, or really push the business in a much more dynamic way. Earlier, you said another favorite word of mine. You got a lot of Marco-isms. I love it. Frankenstack, right?
Yeah.
How do you think about, when you look at your stack and you're thinking about bringing it to sort of the AI age, how do you think about what you want to replace? What do you want to build? Where you want to partner? How do you assess that, given that you have a pretty complex operation going, given who you're working with and who your customers are?
Yeah, I think going back to that first principles, and where are the pain points that can then, if you find that knot and you unlock it, you can get a lot more scale from the bottleneck can move somewhere else, but you can just get a lot more scale to reinvest and either improve a customer experience or drive productivity, efficiency. So the process we're going through is, there's probably 1,000 use cases and one of that we have in our backlog for how to use AI. And we don't want to get into the and this is, we're learning because we've seen it from some of our peers, and also just from industry. We can do a ton of pilots simultaneously, and I mean, there's a study that came out in August, I think, from MIT, where 90+% of them fail. It's really being intentional about what outcomes you're trying to drive, and I think that's where you got to spend some time on, and there's some really low-hanging fruit out there. You think of the friction points, right? Where are the friction points in the journey today for the consumer? Whether it's self-inflicted, it's a system or process that is no longer relevant to how the consumer's behavior is. Whatever that might be, it's really finding those friction points that, using kind of the value ease traditional method of prioritizing work, we can show where we can start to show some reduction in that, and that can free up capital. We can show it in the customer sentiment return. There's a couple we're working on, which we'll launch very soon, on just engaging the customer end to end in their journey with us, no matter where they are. Using AI is really the driver for that, but having human in the loop to take over at any point in the test drive, so to speak. And then also you think of just customers coming in for service, and and the complexity around that, and having to call and understand, and using some technology to take some of that load off the call center, so they can actually be more outbound oriented, more sales oriented, and not just fielding calls. And so kind of a lot of this ties back to the same theme of how do we maximize and get the highest utilization out of any capital investment we have, right? Whether it's human investment, tech investment, product and inventory investment, and and making sure in all that we're making our customers smile, right? We're making our associates smile. It's solving a real problem for them. That we can show the outcomes in the short term are related to probably redeploying some of those gains in different areas, but we know in the long term it's going to show up in in a more enjoyable experience for the consumer as they engage with our products and services.
I love it. All we got to do is measure smiles. That's,
exactly.
The name of the game.
The smile meter. It's a new thing.
Peter, I'm curious, you're obviously like very deep in the automotive world, but automotive is a very unique industry, right? It's a high purchase ticket item. We don't buy a lot of them in our lives. The automotive industry of how we get these vehicles to us, sort of mobility as an industry, that's very unique. I'm curious if you could put your retailer hat on back from your J.Crew days, how would you approach this moment maybe differently or similarly, thinking about AI in a unique way outside of the automotive landscape? What would you recommend to your compatriots at J.Crew or other retailers in a different industry?
I think, yeah, I mean, we it's such a people-led change. So when we're going through our AI enablement, it's first and foremost like we're partnering head to head with HR. It's an HR-led initiative because this is changing how we work. And we've seen there's a lot of I guess currently how organizations are approaching it from making AI pretty much a required skill set across the organization. We're not quite there, but we know for a fact that uh, when we look at every role and function, it's going to be embedded in their workflow and redefine their workflow and actually redefine the operating model over time. And so for any business and industry, it's really like taking a step back and stock and saying, understanding from a people first approach. And to your point, like with human in the loop, what are the roles and functions that are going to be leveraging AI at you know the super user level, at the average user level, at the informed but and users or even doesn't even know it's really driving and changing their workflow, but they're really um, continuing to do what they do best to service our customers. And as you know, yeah, because our business is complex, you have a very diverse workforce. And when you think about the journey of a customer with a vehicle, beyond just purchasing it, servicing it, repurchase, reconditioning it, importing it, managing it through the supply chain, that there's a lot of moving factors that very much translate to other industries as well. But I think taking that people first approach with it, understanding that it's an operating model shift too. So uh, a big part of our strategy is you were born an AI first company, right? But we have to retrofit ourselves to become an AI first company. But it really starts with how do we empower our people to use it in new ways. And there's been a lot of ways we're testing into how to make that impactful. We just stood up a center of excellence around AI, and we partner closely with OpenAI and on this, and it's really transformative because it helps. We kind of identify the power users, we get the advocates across all operations. We're starting to meet, starting to prioritize where use cases are, starting to understand what is the right training, what is the right development programs for each role and function, and that's helping inform what our rollout plan is going to be to the broader organization. So I think that in itself is super exciting coming from a technologist perspective, because this is one of the first real like organizational people transformative um, uh, like shifts I've seen in quite some time. And we really were intentional about taking it from a people first approach. Because I've seen in other organizations where it's like that it falls under tech or in some subset organization, and that there's the execs are kind of asking, where's our AI strategy, where's our what are we working on, what are the results, and we're kind of really flipping the script a bit, and we've invested a bit too at the board level, you know going on and offsite, going to the valley, talking to the leaders in the field, getting everyone literate on it and how it's impacting other industries. What are the big transformative um, areas of any business that the investments are happening, and then starting to then at the ground level up. We do these little biweekly learnings that I host or with some of my team, and just how we're using it, how another function's using it, showcasing it. And then the center of excellence is kind of the hub in the middle that's really taking kind of the executive strategy level and the ground up, and that's going to be where we're investing in scaling it across a sort of organization, and that's going to be what's going to rewire us as a AI first organization.
You talked about your backlog of 1,000 items. You talked a lot about the transformation that you're going through and retrofitting to become AI first. I'm curious, I heard you in an interview talk about, the great Wayne Gretzky quote about skating to where the puck's going. What are you looking forward to for the next 12, 24 months, whether it be with Adore or OpenAI or any of the AI initiatives you've got going? What are you most excited about, and where do you think the puck is going?
Yeah, I think obviously now, with this year with the year of agentic, I do believe we'll have uh, those agentic best of the best, and the human realm kind of twinned out agentically and co-piloted with our field, co-pilot across operations. And I think that's going to give us a great way to have a workflow of agentic talking with agentic across our value chains, and especially as we're getting more vertically integrated, it's super exciting. I think and then there will be you know an intersection with that with the consumer, right? Who's going to an agentic. So it's just bots talking to bots. But what the way we're thinking of it is, the steerer or the orchestrator is going to be, where we're going to invest in our people's growth, skill, and development to really make sure, the human element of that relationship, the emotive element of that relationship, which is so important in any product and service, is where we shine, right? And we kind of take all of uh, that's I guess the friction out of the transaction flow and make it more about the joy and the smile, like you talked about before. I think that's going to be. I mean, a year from now, we feel confident it'll be present across all the functions with some of the investments we're going after. I think that from there, then you get into really where is it exciting is in now how do we become more predictive across our operations and matching consumer to demand and that given the unique nature of our setup here in Hawaii, right? And the cost of doing business, et cetera, the more we can shave off time to secure that product for a consumer and match it for as far upstream as possible. Just a lot, so much flows down from that. That's going to be transformative for our reinvestment and operations. I also think, to your point, the multimodality of it, moving away from a chat interface to wearables. You think of a very high touch, engaging experience that we have today. I think it's going to move to that space where the hands-on keys is no longer it. It's really emulating our senses, right, and using AI. And then that becomes really the technology falls to the back, and it's really human on human, and it's powered through AI. And I think that is going to be pretty transformed. You think of that across our functions, whether it's in the service lane or diagnostics on a vehicle, and just think of the where we are today industry wide, where there's a lot of swivel chairing and hand on keys and looking up stuff, researching parts. All of that becomes really just sensory driven, and behind the scenes, the agentics are doing all of that, kind of like heavy handed work that we have to do today. Traditional kind of hand on keys, hand on keyboards. I think that's really going to be great. I think I'm super excited on the where it's going with regards to really personalization at scale and powered through AI. And it's been something we've been across industries looking to solve for quite some time. I think it's really at a good inflection point with AI, and that's going to be both driven from the consumer demanding it, which I mean for us who are living AI first now, that's essentially how we're shopping, and the brands need to kind of really make sure they're showing up solid to not lose share or lose that customer who's requiring this new experience. I know it's kind of it's on the curve up, but it's definitely going to be exponentially more there. And then I think for as for our industry too, with the the rollout of autonomous, what does that do in terms of the purchase relationship process with the vehicle? What are the revenue streams can that unlock for us? What other engagement streams can that unlock for us with consumers? All powered through AI systems as well. I mean, those are a few. I mean, it's kind of like I
That was
mean,
amazing, Peter. That was
the list will probably
amazing.
change. The list will probably change in 3 months because it's moving so fast. But definitely, as we get into the robotic space too, which is a few years away, with that, how does that transform some of our supply chain, and how do we go to market, and where does that help free up our capital for higher utilization and higher return in other areas and higher service for our consumers.
I love that, Peter. I've got one more question for you. You just painted an incredible picture of the future for me, and I'm excited about it. Give me one thing you're specifically not investing around the hype in AI because you just don't believe in it yet.
Ooh, that's a really good one. I'd have to say, it's the I guess the quick fix, maybe. I mean, to stand up an agent and to say we check the box, we're running, we got AI and across a function, or the tendency to to show a list of 1,000 things we're doing all at once. Which I think it's kind of the reaction to maybe a lot of organizations, you know asking where are we with AI, where's the strategy, and then we're AI everything, and it's just not falling for the quick enablement strategy to say without really being thoughtful of how does this embed in your current workflows, and how does it then transform the way you work. It's you know we, it's not another add-on, right? This is very different. It's not another bolt-on. This is like ground up, right? This, to your point earlier on
Totally.
your first principle. This is rethinking the whole flow of your operations, of your business, of how you engage with your customers. Um, and I think it's just not, and because sometimes like where are we with the route? Where are we with the use cases? And it's like holding the line a little bit. Like we're working on a lot. It's just we don't want to fall into the trap of uh, yeah, we just stood up a bunch of use cases and moved on until people ask where how to go, and then we're off doing something else, or we didn't set up the right measurements for success or outcomes
And
to
that's how you
really.
get 95% of pilots
That's how,
failing,
exactly.
to the
So
quote
yeah,
you
we're
made earlier.
we're being very intentional, and it all goes back to data too. Like it's hard, and it's a big change, because it's some of these concepts too are from an operations perspective, we're asking them to really be you know real champions of the strategy and champions of the data, and really working hand in hand, and but it's got to be tied to some business outcome and value, right? And so that's where we're investing a lot of time, is just continuing to stay on course with the foundations that make it really impactful and successful. You may not see that outcome today, um, as opposed to a quick fix, but it's going to come, and when it comes, it's going to scale, right? And then we're going to be able to measure
Totally.
it, and we'll feel the transformation, in our customers will as well.
Peter, my friend, thank you for joining us and sharing your take a little bit about what's beyond the hype of AI. I hope you are enduring the cold 60, 65 weather out there, and stay warm, my friend. We'll talk soon.
Thank you. Yeah, happy holidays. Great to talk to you.